Yes, sir.
ओके, स्टार्ट करूया.
प्रिसेप्ट घेतले, आता मग मी धम्मदेशनेची रिक्वेस्ट करतो.
ओके, तसं सांगा मग पण त्यांनी.
ओके. वंदावी म्हणते, we already taken 8 precepts from Bante Nyan Siri. So I will request you for formal request for Dhamma Desana.
That's good.
Brahma cha lokadipati sampati Katanjali andivaram ayachata santitta satta parakajatika dese tu dhammam anukamping mangpajang.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So today in America, it is still Christmas. So thought I would give some reflections on giving, reflections on generosity. And perhaps we can, rather than fully just having a formal Dhamma talk to start, maybe we can sit together with just some light meditation instructions in the background. So we can sit for 15 or 20 minutes and then have a formal Dhamma talk for another 20 minutes and then have 20 minutes or so for questions, if that works. So everyone can come to a formal place of sitting. You want the body to be upright, but fully relaxed. You can think of the spinal column as if it was a coat rack. And all of the muscles on the body are just like a coat thrown over the rack. So the spine is upright, but all of our muscles are just relaxing. And when the body is in place, you want to give your full attention to the breath. Knowing the full in-breath, beginning, middle, and end. And knowing the full out-breath, beginning, the middle, and the end. And you can know the breath wherever you experience it most clearly. At the tip of the nose, in the chest, in the belly, or even experiencing the breath energy through the whole of the body. Fully knowing the in-breath fully giving your attention to the out-breath. And the more you give your attention to this present moment, to knowing this very simple object, then the more refined the mind and the breath can become. It's just like a friend, new friend. When you give to this person, then it forms a connection. And so we allow the mind to stay with the breath. And then the breath can open up for us. And the body can open up for us. We are befriending every in-breath and learning to be friends with every out-breath. And just as when you are making friends in the world, you want to bring kindness to the interaction. So too with your meditation practice. You don't want to get tight, fixated, but bring kindness. Infuse the mind with kindness as you know every in-breath and every out-breath. And the warmth of this kindness both helps the mind to settle and it helps the body to settle. The mind will run away. Thoughts go to the future, planning your day. Thoughts jump into the past. You have craving and aversion. And we can just shift out of all of that and just recognize that the mind has not gone anywhere. The mind awareness is still here, and the breath is still here. And we can yoke these two once more. The mind slips away. We recognize, and the mind is already back with the breath. Becoming more and more subtle. But if your mind is not getting more subtle or more refined, that is what it is. And at times like that, just know that this is how the mind is right now. No need to fight it or to pretend that that's not the case. But this is Dhamma This is recognizing conditions as they arise. This is Chittanupassana, knowing the mind as it is. But if you can, keep knowing the breath. And let the mind get brighter and brighter. And allow gratitude to arise along with the loving kindness that you're feeling. All of this with each and every in-breath. All the nuances of every out-breath. And in the last few minutes of a meditation session, before changing our posture, it can help to widen the scope of our awareness, letting the mind become more expansive, broader, wider. And letting any sense of well-being that we've experienced in these past minutes just expand. May all beings be happy. and just letting that radiate from your body, from your heart. May all beings be happy. Now shifting to a different mode of practice. People can stay meditating. You can keep your eyes closed if you like. I'll share some reflections on generosity, giving, and how it works in the practice, and where it fits in the practice of the Eightfold Path taught by the Buddha. Yeah, Christmas in America is a big deal. It's a huge deal. People, there's all sorts of consumerism. People really getting into getting things. There's a lot of desire, provokes a lot of craving in a lot of people. But one aspect of Christmas which is worth celebrating is this celebration of generosity. And although generosity is not one of the factors of the Eightfold Path specifically, it does manifest throughout the whole of the path. So one formulation, as many of you probably know, for the course of training that the Buddha put forth is that of dana, sila, and bhavana. So that's generosity, practice of morality, and practice of mental development. And you can see how this general, the spirit, the essence of generosity, which is letting go, how that really pervades and is, in a sense, is an essence of the whole path. In one sense, you could say that the whole path of the Buddha, the whole Dhamma, is a path of more and more refined letting go, more and more refined giving. So in terms of dana, in terms of generosity, as the term is usually used, we can think of that as giving away. So this is a very relatively easy form of giving to practice. When it comes to giving away mind states, that can be more difficult and more subtle. But with things, that really just takes an action of the hand. Yeah, you do have to put some effort and thought into figuring out what you're going to give away. But at the end, it's just this. It's just this, just letting the object, the material good, pass from your hand out into the hand of someone else. And that really is the essence of dana. One of what's called the 10 Recollections of the Buddha is Chaganusati, which is anusati, the recollection of chaga. Chaga here is a word which really encompasses the full meaning of giving away. So dana is just one form of chaga. And chaganusati, when the Buddha defines it, he speaks of recollecting and remembering those times in the past when you've been generous. And you can do this really anytime. The Buddha said that when you're giving something, the proper time to pay attention to that process is 3. So first, you want to pay attention before you give. So before you give an object, whether say you're going to give food, this is something I get to be the recipient of every day. I'm currently living in Seattle, and I'm going on alms round every day. I'm receiving food donations from many people who I don't know, strangers. And this aspect of before you give, thinking, I'm going to give. This is an important thing. And knowing in that thought that, oh, I would like to give something, or I plan to give something, letting the mind brighten just at that moment, because that in itself is kusala kamma. So this form of punya or merit is called dhanamaya punya. So this is the punya, the merit, which is made or generated maya from dana, from giving. And you don't even have to wait till you give the thing. Just wanting to give something away is in itself meritorious, and it can in itself brighten the mind. So don't think that you have to wait to get all of your happiness and get all of the kusala vipaka, all of the wholesome results from your giving, only until after you've given away the food, or given a present to your loved one, or given the flowers to your spouse. You can rejoice even before you give. And that's, the Buddha praised that. The second time that we want to reflect on our generosity, our giving of material things, is while we're doing it. So the whole practice of the Dhamma is about this present moment. There are times when we think of the past and when we think of the future. The Buddha himself, although he was always mindful and present in the present moment, he could, in the present moment, just as you and I can, in the present moment, think of the future. But here, in this instance, we want to be fully present in the present. So I'm putting this food in this person's bowl. I'm giving these flowers to this shrine. I'm giving this gift to my loved one in the present moment. This is meritorious. This is the teaching of the Buddha. This will make them happy, and it is making me happy. The third time to rejoice in giving, and all of these, this whole scope of generosity is really a mind brightening practice. It is a practice which is joyful in the beginning, joyful in the middle, and joyful in the end. Beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, beautiful in the end. While we give, we can be happy. And then the third time, after we give, we reflect back. Oh, I just gave that person some food. I just gave this monetary support to this organization that I respect. And that also is meritorious. And it becomes even more meritorious and brightening of the mind when you recollect that this is the teaching of the Buddha. So not only did I do it and that's worthy of praise, but this is the teaching of the Buddha, and I can delight in that as well. So this is all in line with this principle of giving material things. On the second level of the path, and we're looking at the path in terms of dana, sila, and bhavana, is sila, or morality. And whereas dana was giving away, sila is giving up. So what we're doing when we practice virtue is we give up our old bad habits. We give up things which are harmful both to ourselves and to others. People here, many of you, it sounds, took the precepts before this talk, and those are trainings. This is a practice of panatipata veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the training to refrain from killing. Another way to phrase that, I undertake the precept, I undertake the point of training to give up killing. I undertake the precept to give up stealing. I undertake the precept to give up sexual misconduct or to practice celibacy. I will give up lying, harsh speech, idle chatter, and I undertake the precept to give up intoxicants. This is a more subtle form of giving. It's a more subtle form of chaga. It's a slightly more difficult action to do because it's an action on the level of the mind. When it's actions of the body, when you're giving a gift, when you're giving clothing, or you're giving some toy, or you're giving some piece of technology to a family member or friend or someone who you respect, that's fairly easy. You just have to get it out of your hand into their hand, and then you're done. It's been given and it's done. Whereas with these other things, you continually have to keep talking yourself into giving that action up, especially if you've been addicted to it, like the fifth precept of alcohol. If you've been drinking or smoking, doing drugs for a long time, the body and the mind are addicted to them, and it takes repeated effort to give them up. But this is worth it, and this is a form of giving which, you're just letting go of something which really was never worth holding on to anyway. In the Dhammapada, I believe verse number 299, could be verse 300. Actually, maybe it's 295. But it's basically when the wise person sees that by abandoning or giving up a lesser happiness, they gain a higher happiness, then that wise person will give up the lesser happiness in favor of the higher happiness. And this is what the giving, this is what the generosity, this is what the chaga of the Buddha is all about. We're not giving up and then going without. We're not giving up and then we're just miserable. Hopefully we're giving up in a way which is intelligent. We're giving up into a higher form of happiness, a more refined, a less harmful, a form of happiness, the happiness of content. When you realize that you don't need alcohol, you don't need drugs, when you become independent from those things, that's a higher form of happiness because you don't need to go anywhere. Many Western monks, I ordained at a monastery called Abhayagiri in California, and all of the monks are American. And only of those, only one of them was raised in a Buddhist family. The rest came from Christian families or no families that had no religion. I myself was not raised in a religious family. But oftentimes we get inspired because we go to a meditation retreat. A friend talks us into sitting a 10-day retreat, and we give up using our phone, we give up using our iPad, our computer, watching movies, all these other things that we're addicted to. Give up certainly alcohol, we give up eating afternoon, and we're just sitting meditation day in, day out for 10 days. And this is how many Western monks become inspired. And you realize by doing this that at times you can access states of happiness which are way, way beyond and way more pure and just totally a different league of even, you could even call it pleasure. This is sukha. This is a type of sukha which is blameless. This is the internal sukha of keeping precepts and of mind training. And the final framing of the Buddha's path in this threefold way of looking at it is bhavana, dana, sila, bhavana, or sometimes, panya, you can frame it as. But bhavana is, it literally means to develop. It's developing, oftentimes translated in English as meditation, but really it's developing wholesome mind states, and it's not just restricted to meditation, but bhavana is something we do with our body, speech, and mind. And bhavana, as dana, is giving away, and sila is giving up. Bhavana is giving in. And that giving in leads to the next phase, which is giving out. So giving in, what is that? We give ourselves to the internal experience of the mind. We turn our attention inward rather than constantly running out and chasing after our thoughts or chasing after beautiful sights, smells, tastes, touch, and running away from ugly and disagreeable and painful sight, smells, etc. We just give in to contentment with the present moment. We give in to knowing the principles of anicca, dukkha, anatta, that is impermanence, not self, and unsatisfactoriness. In giving in this way, this is, when you take it to its final level, this leads to release, the final giving out or going out. The third noble truth. So maybe some of you are familiar with the Dhamma Cakkappavattana Sutta. That's the first discourse that the Buddha gave. And in that discourse, the Buddha defines the third noble truth as yotasayeva tanhaya asesa viraga nirodo chago patinisago mutti analayo. And in English, that means this third noble truth is the remainderless fading away and giving up of craving, release from that craving, giving up that craving, and complete abandonment and letting go of that very craving. So that is in that formula, we find a number of words which in different contexts actually do just mean generosity and giving. Chago. So chaga is a definition of the third noble truth when we realize the end of suffering. Patinisaga, that is the thorough giving up of something. Muti is release from it, and analayo is the no longer holding on to it. But especially this chaga and patinisago are different forms of giving up, and they are synonymous with nibbana. So nibbana is the highest happiness, it's the highest peace, and it's a state where we fully give in, we fully give up, we fully give away, and we're fully released. Ajahn Chah has a beautiful quote. Ajahn Chah is our main teacher in Thailand. Grandfather, he's passed away now, but the grandfather of our lineage. And he teaches that if you give away a little, then you get a little. If you give away a lot, then you get a lot. And if you give away completely, then you gain complete release. And that's a beautiful framing. And that's that's what we do when we practice generosity. When we give a gift to someone else, we're basically practicing with the body the action that we're trying to practice with the mind when we meditate. And when we meditate, we're practicing the action, the shift of attention that ultimately will realize nibbana and will realize the complete giving up of all unwholesome, and giving up, honestly, it at one point we give up the wholesome as well, and we realize complete transcendence. So I'll leave the Dhamma talk there and open it up for questions.
साधु साधु साधु. कुणाचे प्रश्न आहेत का? तुमचे प्रश्न असतील तर हँड रेस करायचे.
सर मैं विचारू का?
हो विचार.
Ajhan, the question regarding donations to Arya Pugala, just like Arya Pugala following 272 precepts, and we gain more merits, but we have got some bhikkhus that don't follow 272 precept. They take cash, they not follow vikala bhojana. So if we give donations to this type of bhikkhus, we'll get same merits.
There is a discourse, I believe it's called the Dakina Vibhanga Sutta. It's Majjhima Nikaya number 150, I believe. But it's basically the exposition on right giving. And there it says that a gift to the Sangha, so not to any particular monk in particular, but say you give a gift of robes to the whole Sangha. You go to a monastery and offer that gift to the whole Sangha. The Buddha says in this discourse that that is more meritorious than if you were to offer it to him, offering it to the Buddha himself, together with a whole assembly of Arahant monks. So that's giving to the Sangha. And the Buddha even includes in that discourse, he says, in the future, there will be shameless monks who he calls yellow necks. I forget the Pali term, but he says in the future, there will be these yellow necks who they're basically fake monks. They don't keep the precepts. And he said, even still, giving a gift to the Sangha is very meritorious. But that said, you bring up a good point that in terms of people, the Buddha did say that there were distinctions. I mean, giving, and you can just feel this. When you give a gift of food to someone, especially if you've ever, or we have ever been able to meet someone who we do believe is an Arya Pugala, the feeling that you get from doing that versus, say, giving some money to someone who might be addicted to drugs, someone who's living on the streets, and you don't know what they're going to do with that money. It feels very different. And the Buddha was explicit and said that, there's a very different type of merit that you gain. It's still merit when you give a gift, even if you take your the extra food at the bottom of your bowl after you've eaten and you pour that rinse water into a pond thinking, may the beings in the pond eat this rice and be happy. Still, that's meritorious. But all the way up, there is a kind of hierarchy the Buddha talks about with Arya Pugala, or a Buddha at the top, but even above the Buddha being the Sangha. But you make a good point. it's not good for the individual monks, and it's not good for the Sangha to be giving inappropriate things to individual Sangha members. So yeah, giving money, giving cash to monks, at least in the tradition that I'm a part of, in the way that we understand Vinaya, yeah, that's our tradition of monks. We don't accept money, and we're very specific about that. But I think worldwide, most monks do use money. But as a layperson wanting to support different monks, maybe you can find a different way to support them. Maybe you could give money to a foundation they support, or maybe you could give money to their monastery, or better, you can give food, or you can give services. Yeah, it's a tricky question, but if it doesn't feel good to give money for the reasons that you list, then yeah, find a different way to give.
Yeah, Bante. One more question regarding receiver should be free of greed, hatred, and delusion. So how to recognize that?
The giver or the receiver? Sorry.
Receiver.
The receiver, yes. Well, that is up to the receiver. Again, yeah, there's gradations of the merit gained from a gift. It depends on the intention of the donor, the gift, and the mind state of the person receiving the gift. And if I'm the one that's giving, the only things that I can count for, I can count for my own intentions. Okay, this is a pure intention. I want to give this gift both for my own benefit and for the benefit of this other person, and maybe even a broader group of society. And the gift, I can choose a good gift, which is appropriate to that person, is not improper. And in terms of the other person's mind state, hopefully I can choose someone who I know and who I respect and who I've seen for a long time as being at least relatively free from greed and anger and delusion. And if we can give to someone who's fully and always free from greed, anger, and delusion, an Arya Pugala, an Arahant, that's great. But yeah, we don't always have Arhants hanging around. So yeah, giving to who we can, when we can, that's next best.
Thank you, Bante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Vandami Bante.
Hello.
Good morning, Bante.
Good morning.
Bante, we are hearing the new word Jhaga. So please clear about the Jhaga.
Chaga. Chaga, spelled C long A G A. Chaga. 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 It is sometimes used as a synonym, so meaning the same thing as dana. So when I give a gift to another monk, that's an act of chaga. And again, we find it in this term chaganusati, the recollection of the generosity that you've done in the past. So thinking about, well, yeah, this past year, and this is a great practice. At the end of the year, we've got 5 or 6 more days left this year. Look back on the year that's passed and see if you can remember every single gift that you gave. That in itself is chaganusati. And the Buddha said that all of these anusati, these 10 recollections, are for the purpose of gladdening the mind. They lead to pamoja. And from pamoja leads to piti. Piti leads to kaya pasambati. So gladness leads to rapture or joy. Joy leads to bodily tranquility. Bodily tranquility leads to sukha, leads to mental happiness and pleasure. And sukhino chittang samadhyati. So the happy mind is easily concentrated, and the concentrated mind sees things as they are. So we practice and we remember our chaga, the generosity that we've done, in order to give rise to gladness, because that helps give rise to piti and sukha and samadhi. And so those are two definitions of chaga. But then chaga also appears in the definition of the third noble truth. So it is a synonym. It means the same thing as nibbana in this concept. So nibbana, nirvana, the goal of the Buddhist path, is chaga. It is full relinquishment, full giving up.
Sadhu, 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 Vande. Thank you, Vande. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I think no questions, Bante.
Okay. Well, maybe we can spend the next. Should we end early, or should we sit together and we can do another guided meditation for the next
Can
10
Bante.
10 or 15
Sure,
minutes?
sure.
Okay. So we can sit until almost close to the hour mark. Again, bringing the body upright. And we can practice Chaganusati, so recollection of generosity. Just as our normal meditation, letting the body be fully upright. And we can let the mind settle a little bit by coming back to the breath. Knowing every in-breath, knowing every out-breath. And now to practice Chaganusati. This is one of the 40, it's one of the 10 recollections, which is, it's also one of the 40 kammatthana taught by Buddhaghosa, explained by the Buddha. And to practice this, we can use the breath and the body as our anchor. But think back over this past year. And the beautiful thing about Chaganusati is that it doesn't just have to be recollection of your own generosity. It can be generosity that you've seen other people perform. So think back over this past year and try to bring to mind the most potent, the most condensed and powerful act of generosity that either you have done yourself or that you've witnessed someone close to you performing. So as you stay with awareness inside the body, let a part of the mind think back over this past year. Chaganusati. When you have some act of generosity that you either performed yourself or that you witnessed someone else perform. Bring that memory into the heart, the physical heart in the middle of the chest. And you can even use a mantra. If you have good connections with Pali, you can use the mantra Chaga, Chaga. Either Chaga every in-breath, Chaga every out-breath, or Cha on the in-breath, Ka on the out-breath, or just totally independent of the breath. Or you can use any other language, giving, giving, giving. And you can use this mantra just to hold that image, hold that recollection of the generosity in your heart. And allowing pamoja to arise, allowing joy, delight, gladness to arise. That was beautiful. Just let that reverberate. Let the vibrations from this positive memory just fill the whole body. Fill the mind, brighten the mind. Just giving, letting go, relinquishing, giving up, giving away, giving in, giving out. And this is beautiful. And as this awareness of the beauty of giving drenches, steeps, fills, and pervades the whole body, you can bring in the supportive recollection of gratitude. Generosity and gratitude are two sides of the same coin. Grateful, and this gratitude can stabilize the fullness of the recollection of generosity, of Chaganusati. And from time to time, you can just check in, and recollect a moment of that generous act. Just generosity is so lovely. And we can be so grateful for both to practice generosity and to receive generosity. And the brightness and the thrill of this recollection leads to joy, rapture, when we let it, it can let the body relax, let the mind know sukha, know happiness and pleasure. And the mind can concentrate, collect. And before we end, remember this moment, recollecting how beautiful and unique and special is the act of generosity, is dana, is chaga. You can develop a strong aspiration, an adhitthana, that may I practice generosity in the future. May I always give. May I always give. And as we're in this mode, letting this future intention fill our mind. Yeah, you can think about a practice which I've witnessed in certain monasteries called the Sarinia Practice. Sarinia meaning those things which are worthy of remembering, or those things which lead to harmony, which are conducive to harmony. And the Sarinia practice in particular here is giving away some food. So before you eat, just giving some piece of food away. How this is practiced in a monastery is, yeah, it's easy in a monastery. You're with a bunch of other people and you just give away a little bit of your food. You maybe take a little bit extra and give a little bit away before you eat yourself. And you don't have to live in a monastery. You can give away some of your food to your pet or your child or your husband or your wife or a monk that's passing by. And just, yeah, can you do that? It might be a beautiful practice, this Sarinia, remembering, can I give away food before I eat? And the Buddha said, if people knew as I knew the power of giving and of generosity, they wouldn't eat without having given. So I'll leave that as the final reflection.
Sadhu,
Bhante,
sadhu, sadhu.
sadhu, sadhu. Bhante, blessings.
Yata varivaha pura paripurinte sagaram. Evameva ito dinam vedanam upakapate. Ichitam patitam tumham kipameva samijatu. Sabe purentu sankapa. Chando panaraso yata. Mani jyotiraso yata. Sabitio vivachantu. Sabarogo vinasatu. Mate bhavadvantarayo sukhe dekayuko bhava. Abhivadana sili sanichang buddha pachayino. Chataro dhamma vadante ayuvano sukhang balang.
रविंद्र सर काही विचारायचं आहे?
Thank you very much, Bante. From all meditators, you have given your precious time.
Yeah, it's an honor. I'm very happy to see so many people tuning in on a Sunday morning. So yeah, thank you for this honor. Hope everyone has a good day.
Thank you.
Sadhu.